Friedrich Nietzsche has become one of the most controversial figures in Western philosophy, given his dedication to challenging traditional norms and his unique perspectives which attempted to redefine the very essence of human existence. His writings present a call to embrace the uncertainty of a world without fixed foundations, to question, to overcome, and to affirm life in all its complexities. In this video, we will look into some of his main ideas, from his critique of Christianity to his exploration of individual will to power and the Ubermensch, and explore the nuanced complexities inherent in perhaps his most famous phrase, "God is dead." Nietzsche was well known for his critique of traditional systems of morality, as he believed that they were based on historical societies and cultures which no longer held relevance in the post-Enlightenment world. In his 1887 work on the genealogy of morality, Nietzsche posits that the distinction between our concepts of good and evil were founded in the dichotomy between those in power and those they ruled over. He therefore dissected the concept of morality into two conflicting perspectives: master morality and slave morality. Nietzsche's conception of master morality is characterized by a system of values which originated from the perspective of those in power, who asserted their morality, which included qualities such as strength, power, nobility, and honor, as good morality. Nietzsche stated that slave morality arose as a reaction to master morality and is characterized by virtues such as humility, compassion, and equality in the face of oppression, which all equates to good morality. According to Nietzsche, slave morality was a weaker, life-denying form of morality, which grew to significance over time, especially following the advent of Christianity, where qualities such as humility, meekness, and compassion became virtues and created a moral code, according to Nietzsche, founded on resentment towards those in power. Nietzsche suggests that the internalization of this resentment by the oppressed evolved into guilt and played a crucial role in the development of conventional moral codes based on humility, meekness, and punishment. What Nietzsche is illustrating here is the idea that courageous leaders and heroes of the Greek and Roman eras were replaced by the mediocre mass, and the will and potential of humanity was subdued under this so-called slave morality. Consequently, Nietzsche was intensely critical of traditional European ethical systems such as liberalism, socialism, and even democracy, which have their roots in the Christian ethic and the egalitarian-based conception of morality. For these reasons, Nietzsche held that modern societies required an urgent re-evaluation of traditional systems of morality, as he believed they foster a culture of guilt and resentment. He instead encouraged individuals to develop their own values and morality based on a more dynamic, individualistic, and life-affirming approach. In much of Nietzsche's writings, he discusses the idea that the fundamental driving force in human nature is the will to power, the desire for growth, self-affirmation, and the realization of one's potential. He also argued that traditional moral systems such as liberalism and democracy suppress the individual's will to power and creativity. In particular, concepts such as guilt, sin, and pity were seen by Nietzsche as inhibiting individual potential and strength, as they were born out of the Christian egalitarian concept that all humans are equal. This system of morality encourages humility and compassion for one another, as opposed to competition and dominance, which Nietzsche believed was the true basis of human motivation. For Nietzsche, the idea of an absolute universal morality which applies to all individuals in all situations was based on the false presuppositions stemming from the Christian ethic, which were used by those in power to influence and control the weaker members of society. Instead, Nietzsche was a proponent of perspectivism, a concept which propagates the idea that all moral judgments are conditioned by individual perspectives and interpretations, as well as the cultural and historical context through which they arise. Therefore, Nietzsche held that there can be no objective universal standpoint from which to assess the truth or validity of moral claims, hence his attack on traditional value systems born of the Christian ethic, which claim universal truths that apply to all. Nietzsche's response was to call for a critical re-evaluation of our systems of morality, which he argued were based in religious traditions that no longer collectively bound populations across Europe. Widespread belief in God and the Christian Church had begun to diminish following the Enlightenment period and the rise of science and secular forms of morality. Consequently, Nietzsche believed that we cannot continue to uphold ethical systems based in the Christian tradition when these traditions no longer reflected society's needs. However, Nietzsche understood the profound implications of a world devoid of an intrinsic sense of meaning and value, resulting from the decline in Christianity and the moral and spiritual guidance it provided. He explores this eventuality in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, one of the last books he wrote before his fall into insanity and subsequent death. In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Nietzsche famously declares that God is dead, God remains dead, and we have killed him. This claim has often been inaccurately interpreted as a celebratory call to nihilism. Nietzsche was in fact referring to the decline of widespread religious belief following the shift in the cultural landscape from traditional Christian explanations of the world towards science and modernity following the Enlightenment period. Nietzsche took the implications of the decline in the belief in God and the associated binding power of religious structures very seriously. His quote was warning us of the dangers inherent in the uprooting of a centuries-old tradition of morality and understanding. He feared that without the certainty and purpose provided by the belief in a divine power, which guided the morals and behavior of people, societies could succumb to nihilism, the belief that the world is inherently meaningless. Societies in the Western world face increasing levels of anxiety, depression, and addiction. One of the factors in this could be due to the fact that we are now broadly devoid of the spiritual certainty and purpose historically provided by faith and religious practice. Individuals may seek meaning and collective comfort in other aspects of life, or simply numb the existential void through hedonism. The death of God and decline in the egalitarianism of traditional Christianity had other far-reaching consequences, according to Nietzsche. Once you deny the fact that everyone is of equal value, or that life has inherent meaning, a brutal competitive world ensues with no collective foundation or universal moral codes. The 20th century was characterized by violence and oppression caused by conflicting ideologies including fascism, socialism, communism, and democracy. These ideologies were the result of cultural, social, and intellectual movements born out of the search for new ethical frameworks for individuals to frame their guiding principles and obtain moral certainty. Many of the events of the 20th century can be viewed as a battle for supremacy between these conflicting ideological narratives. Despite the impactful language and chilling undertones within Nietzsche's writings, he was hopeful. Nietzsche saw within the crisis of meaning an opportunity for individual will to power to take prominence and encourage people to cultivate their own meaning and life-affirming principles through self-development. This creative affirmation is central to Nietzsche's response to the crisis of the death of God and the foundation for his concept of the Ubermensch. The Ubermensch, or Superman, was a concept first introduced in Thus Spoke Zarathustra as a result of the crisis faced by the death of God. The Ubermensch is a theoretical individual who has transcended the limitations posed by conventional culture and morality to create their own system of values. The Ubermensch for Nietzsche was the next stage of the spiritual evolution of humanity and represented a higher state of consciousness and creativity. The Ubermensch is the personification of Nietzsche's concept of the will to power, the fundamental drive for self-affirmation and growth. It is important to note that the concept of the Ubermensch does not relate to a physically dominant or aggressive individual, as was the incorrect interpretation by Hitler and the Nazi Party. Instead, it is a call for individual creativity and growth in order to transcend societal norms and realize one's own potential. In 1889, Nietzsche fell into a state of insanity where he remained for 11 years before his death. A sad but poetically fitting end to a life imbued with existential contemplation, radical re-evaluations, and the spiritual struggle against a world in a drastic state of change. The converging of his personal struggles with his passionately inquisitive mind produced a thinker who dared to question firmly ingrained belief structures. Consequently, Nietzsche's ideas resonated throughout the 20th century and will no doubt continue to influence and shape the ideas of many thinkers to come.